Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Balava Girivardhari Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotarashata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotarashata Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonon, Chapter 13, The Stealing of the Boys and the Cows by Brahma, text 26 and 27. So we have 26 in the board. Brajaukasham swatokeshu Snehavalyabdam anvaham Sanairnishimavabridhe Jatha Krishne Apurvavat Brajakausham swakatokeshu Snehavalyaptan anvaham Sanair nishima babridhe Jatha Krishne tvapurvavat Brajao kalsan swatokeshu Snehavalyaptan ambaham Sanair nishima babridhe Jatha Krishne tvapurvavat. Please chant. Brajauka samsvatokeshu Snehavalyaptan ambhavam Sanarnishima babridhe Jatha Krishne tvapurvavat. Brajauka samsvatokeshu Sneham valyaptan ambaham Sanarnishima babridhe Jatha Krishne tvapurvavat. Braja Okasham. Of all the inhabitants of Braja, Vrindavan, Shvatokeshu, for their own sons, Snehavali, the creeper of affection, Aptam, for 1 year, Anu Aham, every day, Sanai, gradually, Nishima, without limit, Vabridhe, increase it, Jatha Krishna, exactly accepting Krishna as their son. 2. Indeed, Apurvavat, as it has not been previously. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Although the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, the cowherd men and cowherd women, previously had more affection for Krishna than for their own children, now, for 1 year, their affection for their own sons continuously increased, for Krishna had now become their sons. There was no limit to the increment of their affection for their sons, who were now Krishna. Every day they found new inspiration for loving their children as much as they loved Krishna. Text 27. Itan atma manatmanam vatsapala mishenasa palajan vatsapo varasam chikride vanagoshtayo. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this way, Lord Sri Krishna, having himself become the cowherd boys and groups of calf, maintained himself by himself. Thus, he continued his pastimes both in Vrindavan and in the forest for 1 year. Purport. Everything was Krishna, the calf, the cowherd boys, and the maintainer himself were all Krishna. In other words, Krishna expanded himself in varieties of calf and cowherd boys and continued his pastimes uninterrupted for 1 year. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's expansions is situated in everyone's heart as a super soul. Similarly, instead of expanding himself as the super soul, he expanded himself as a portion of calf and cowherd boys for 1 continuous year. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Ramapada Swami Iti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaura Bani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. In the 10 essential teachings of Lord Chaitanya, they're called Dasa Mula. The third of those Dasa Mula have to do with the potencies of the Lord. He has multi-potencies. And the verse of that Mula reads like this. Actually, Lord Chaitanya takes the essential teachings, some of the essential teachings of the Sampradaya, who was established by Madhavacharya. Madhavacharya has these Nava Prameyas, or 9 truths, that then Lord Chaitanya expanded into this Dasa Mula, 10. And which basically they were very similar, just slightly variations. But so the third Dasa Mula have to do with the Lord multifarious energies and potencies. And it is explained that that particular quality of having this Parashakti is what defines the Supreme Being, the one without a second. So it's because this particular capacity. So it's described like this. Para Khyaya Shakter Apritat Apisha Swa Mahimani Stito Jivakyam Swa Achit Abhihitam Tantri Padikam Swatantrecha Shaktim Shakala Vishaje Perirana Paro Brikara Brikara Dhyai Sunya Parama Purusho Jam Vijiyate. So it translates like this. Although Sri Bhagavan is non-different from his inconceivable transcendental potency, Parashakti, he has his own independent nature and desires. His Parashakti consists of 3 aspects: Chit Shakti, spiritual potency; Jiva Shakti, marginal potency; and Maya Shakti, external potency. He is always inspired them to engage in their respected functions. That Paratattva, the Supreme Absolute Truth, even while performing all these activities, is still remaining immutable and is eternally situated in the fully transcendental Swarup of his own glory. So, one of the special aspects of this Parashakti is described in the Swasottara Upanishad, the very famous verse that Srila Prabhupada often quotes, Parasha Shaktir Vidadaiva Shrujate. The whole verse also describes how by this particular capacity or potency that Krishna possesses makes it, the Param Brahma, or the Supreme. Natasya Karyam Karanam Chavidyate, that although he he remains, he just by his desire, immediately, just by any type of desire, he doesn't have to endeavor, he doesn't have to work. He simply desires. So he has this capacity to simply, he doesn't have anything to do. There's no, this karanam, karyam, or this activity. He doesn't have to perform any activity. So Prabhupada explains that this most amazing capacity, that although he is playing with his cowherd boys, friends, and dancing with the gopis, and exchanging, he's having his relationship with his parents, Nanda and Yashoda. Although he's doing this, simply playing, automatically there's all this background thing that is happening that he have to do with the material creation, with the spiritual maintenance of different planets, different spiritual and material planets. All these things are happening automatically. He doesn't have to do anything. It's automatically carried by his potencies, just by his desire. So Natasha Karyam Karanancha Vidyate. And then the verse Parasya Shaktir Vidadaiva Shuyate, that he possesses all these multifarious potencies, that Swabhavaki Jnana Bhala Kriyacha, that have this capacity of acting according to his desire automatically. He doesn't have to do anything. So by this potency, although he is fully present with nothing to do, automatically he can achieve anything. He can do anything, and it still appear that he is not doing anything. So, so it is not extraordinary what this feat that he performed to bewilder Lord Brahma, that he is able to expand himself into each one of the cowherd boys and the calf, and being able to maintain in an uninterrupted manner his pastimes, or his regular daily pastimes and activities, and still go to the same thrill and the same sort of fun that Krishna has, because he has that type of capacity of being, although he is one with his energies, still he remains, as it says here, with his own independent nature and desires. So each one of these energies is acting according to his desires, and in the same way is basically just as each of the cowherd boys is also part of his energy. It's an expansion of his energies. So as is explained in the Dasa Mula, that there's this there's his multifarious energies, as is explained. They're unlimited, but they're qualified in these three departments: the internal potency or spiritual potency, the external potency of the Maya potency, and the Jiva Shakti, that is the living entities. So in reality, everything is Krishna's energy, and he still remain, although the energies are one, he still remain completely independent. So therefore, he is a supreme absolute truth. Like Lord Brahma, Srila Vyasadeva, the first verse of the Bhagavatam just immediately established Jammadhyasa jatam vajat itaratas chatarsu abhigyaswarat, that he is the source, the cause, the origin of this whole cosmic manifestation. He is the origin, he is the maintainer, and he is the destroyer of all this cosmic creation. And he is fully independent and fully cognizant of everything, because he is connected indirectly and directly to everything. And and he's perfectly independent. And he have this capacity by his potencies that are so incredibly powerful that is completely bewildering even to great demigods. To be able to do what he does is a unique capacity. There's the powerful yogis are able also to expand themselves into different, similar forms, like clone themselves. There's example of who was the yogi who was able to expand himself into so many forms equal, but they all do the same thing. But Krishna is able to expand himself and be each one of these forms be perfectly independent. Narada Muni witnessed that when he entered Dwarka, and Krishna did that with the gopis in the Rasa Lila dance, and he is able to do that as described in the previous classes, with each cowherd boy as he's sitting in the center taking lunch. So each one is able to have this independent connection with Krishna. So he's able to do that. So it's very bewildering. Tene Brahma Adikavaye Muhyanti Jatsurajaha, that even the great sages and demigods become bewildered by his capacity. So this is what makes Krishna the one without a second. No one can equal his capacity and power. So the pastime is quite amazing. And there's another thing that it is described in this Parasha Shakti verse, that he achieved many things at the same time with just one action. He's able to cover many things perfectly, automatically. So in the case of the type of personal relations they have with each one of the fathers and mothers of Vrindavan, who actually display a much greater affection for Krishna than their own children. So because all of them desire to have Krishna as their children. They have this natural attraction for Krishna, and they have that desire, and Krishna fulfilled it. For 1 year, this was his way of fulfilling that desire. So all the mothers of Vrindavan, all the fathers of Vrindavan, including the cows, they had the full year in which they fulfill this desire of having Krishna as their son. So they find out that that every day they have an increasing manifestation of that affection that they have for Krishna. So it was ever increasing. And we hear later that this was noticed by Balaram, and even Mother Yashoda was very surprised to see how the atmosphere of Vrindavan for that year was like an increasing pool of ecstasy, because they noticed that all the different, all their cowherd men and cowherd women and the calf were tremendously happy because they were experiencing this, and they couldn't wait for the children to come. So, so this was also Krishna achieving that, not only taking care of Lord Brahma and correcting him, helping him to overcome this doubt, and also reciprocating with the inhabitants of Vrindavan's desire to have him directly as his son. So he covers all these things automatically like that. And he still is able to remain fully independent. So Krishna says to Arjuna, behold my mystic potencies, Yogeshwar. So this is the supreme potency of the Lord. We have a full activities today. We're starting a camp here. So I have to give a class a little later. And I'm going to stop here early. But, if you have any discussions on this thing. Jai Baladev.
Hare Krishna. Hello. Is there feedback? I'm not sure, but anyway. Thank you for your class. I'm please forgive me for not organizing my thoughts, but I'll do the best I can. You were mentioning, what is mentioned in the purport, of course, how, and one thing I noticed you mentioned, and is Prabhupada explains in his report, and I really appreciated it because you were reiterating what Prabhupada said in the report where it says, Krishna expanded himself in varieties of cows and cowherd boys and continued his pastimes uninterrupted for 1 year. So I appreciate this word uninterrupted because in our advancement of Krishna consciousness, there may be temptations to interrupt our consciousness. Brahma tried to interrupt the happiness of Krishna, but Krishna acted like nothing just happened. And we see that the great saints like Ramachandra Khan tried to interrupt the happiness of Haridasa Kaur by setting it up, but his happiness was uninterrupted. Same with Durvasa and Ambarish. And I'll just mention one of my favorite quotes. It says, the reason, one analogy that I appreciate, of course it's only theoretical, but at least we could appreciate the theory so we could try to use it in practice. One reason why the great saints' happiness is uninterrupted is because they don't allow us on the outside to get on the inside. Like one of my favorite quotes I mentioned before. It says, ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets in them. We can't stop everything on the outside, opposition, criticism, rumors, or traffic. But if we allow us on the outside to get on the inside, then we'll sink into depression, fear, and anger. Of course, Krishna has the ability to stop us on the outside, but sometimes he demonstrates how we should respond to circumstances by not allowing. And there's a nice quote, because we see that that's the difference between positive people and negative people. Positive people don't allow anyone to interrupt their happiness because they're always connected to Krishna. So there's a nice quote that says, that I mentioned last time. It says, negative people need drama like oxygen. Stay positive, it'll take their breath away. This is precisely what Brahma saw when he was like, Christians with happiness and uninterrupted? So my question is regarding one nice story I told a couple devotees recently, Mohini and a nice Masaji named Ritaja, because we see that generally speaking, those who try to interrupt other people's happiness, they care about, materialism, even in the name of Krishna consciousness, like Lord Brahma or Indra, or so many people who are supposed to be devotees. And those who try to increase people's happiness, they care more about the, like I said, my thoughts are very disorganized. Well, we see the one reason that there are two kinds of devotees, those who are glorious and those who are glamorous. Krishna was glorious, and Brahma was like, why are you so glorious? Krishna was glorious, and all the great saints are so glorious because they're concerned about giving people the gift of Krishna Prema. And those who live a life of glamour, are more concerned about the gift wrapping of, materialism. So there's a nice story that I explained to two devotees, like I said, Mohini and Risa, just a nice story. It says, illustrating this point, maybe you could expand on some of these points. It says, once upon a time, a mother wanted to teach her son a lesson on gratitude. Why? Because every year for her son's birthday, he will be grateful for some gifts and ungrateful for the others. When he received a video game, he was very happy. When he received a book, he threw it away in disgust. Yuck. So the next year for her son's 9th birthday, she wanted to teach him a lesson on gratitude. So she did something different. She bought him more gifts than ever, approximately 100. When he saw so many gifts, he was so happy. And so he started to open the first gift. When he opened it, he was completely shocked. He opened the second gift, he was completely shocked. The third gift, shocked. 100 gifts later, he opened, he was completely bewildered and shocked. Why? Because he discovered that there was nothing inside. And the moral of the story is that just as we're all initially attracted to a nice gift wrap package, but are repelled by it when we find out there's nothing inside. So also, the Bhagavatam, Queen Kuti says, Jama Aishraya Shruta Shri Bear Edamana Madhapuma Naibrahati Abidatum Vai Swama Kinchana Goshanam. We're all initially attracted to those who are gift wrapped in beauty, fame, high education, and good parentage, but are repelled by them when we find out there's nothing inside. Unless we give ourselves the gift of humility, appreciation, forgiveness, and gratitude, then we'll always remain empty with pride, envy, vengeance, and attitude. So one last point I'd like to make, and maybe you could expand on these points, is that one thing I appreciate about all the great saints, I'll just start with Srila Prabhupada and gratitude of him. Generally speaking, when people become a very old man, they lose their youth, they lose their money, they lose their fame. Now people don't want to associate with them. But why was all the great saints, including Srila Prabhupada, why were people so attracted to them even in their old age? And one lesson I learned from his pastime is because all the great saints, they're less concerned about being a model and more concerned about being a role model. So my question is that how do we know we're not fooling ourselves in Krishna consciousness? How do we know we're not just performing Krishna consciousness for the external gifts? We think, the gifts, maybe the bhuti, the muti, or, the jama, aishwarya. How do we know we're not attracted to these things and passing off as I'm attracted to the gift of Krishna consciousness? How do we distinguish that? How do we know? How do we know we're not fooling ourselves?
Oh, Prabhupada explains that it's natural, just as when you're hungry and you eat, then when you're full, no one have to tell you, okay, now it's enough. When your hunger is satisfied, you automatically feel it. So Prabhupada gave that example to explain that in terms of what is it? That happiness of the soul, or that ananda, that satisfaction, the satisfaction, automatically you get to know. No one have to tell you. Automatically we feel, we fully fulfill. What is it? What is the Sanskrit again? I got a blank. But no, from the famous verse of Savai Punsam Parodharmo Yatu Bhaktira Dokshaye Ahaitu Kya Pratiyat Yayatma Suprasidati. Yayatma Suprasidati. This Suprasidati, automatically you able to understand it. No one have to tell you. You don't have to learn that. Automatically happens. So, in meanwhile, we just have to understand. We have to engage in the process of purification. And in the process of purification, you have to deal with this, other things. Basically, the process of purification is eliminating from our consciousness false shelters. We take shelter of all these different conceptions of self, upadis. So you start to peel them down until we can be in the position of just Mam ekam sharanam braja. We only have one shelter. So automatically what happens? Krishna's position is very unique, and specifically Krishna in Vrindavan is very bewildering. It's very unique. That's what Krishna says. It's very difficult to understand, even from personalities who are fully liberated. Even to Lakshmi Devi and Vaikuntavasis. To understand the type of affairs of Vrindavan is very difficult. The narration of Lord Chaitanya's discussion with Venkatavata, in which Lord Chaitanya asked Venkatavata about Goddess Lakshmi, that she is the highest chaste wife, the topmost. She's always, residing in the chest of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. So how is that she leaves that position and perform austerities to associate with Krishna? Lord Chaitanya asked Venkatavata, and Venkatavata say, the obvious. There's no difference between Lord Vishnu and Lord Krishna, so there's no fault with her. She is perfectly chaste. And Lord Chaitanya say, well, but why she was not allowed? She was not allowed to enter the Rasa Lila dance. Lord Chaitanya point out that the type of exchanges that Krishna has with the cowherd girls, in which he allowed, as they dance, they have this embrace, or that they were holding Krishna like this. That's not imagined for the goddess of fortune. She's always at the lotus feet of the Lord, massaging the lotus feet of the Lord, because there is awe and reverence. And because of this awe and reverence, then this natural flow of love have certain interruption. Well, you know, the love of the Vaikuntha Vasis in awe and reverence is perfect and is full, is prema. But the level of intimacy that is devoid of this awe and reverence in Vrindavan is we can even imagine. That's the part that is very bewildering and very difficult to understand. That's what Krishna is difficult to understand. That's what he says in the Bhagavad Gita, that even, siddhas, perfected beings, it is very rare that they can fully understand him. So understanding of Krishna is really out there. Now, how is that we have access to this? Then that's just the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Namo Mahavadanyaya. Because of his mercy, we're able to have entrance. I mean, something that not even the goddess of fortune. So that just tells us, the gift of Lord Chaitanya. We just celebrated, Gaur Purnima. That is beyond in my understanding. Something that is not available for even Lord Brahma becomes bewildered to try to understand Krishna. Lord Brahma. What, Lakshmi Devi have to perform austerities and she still can enter. And then here we are, just regular Kali Yuga people, and Krishna, in his most magnanimous manifestation, is just giving us entrance to this. So if we take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, our destination is Goloka Vrindavan. How is that possible? So it's very unique. It's very unique. This passage of Vrindavan is not a simple thing to understand. Krishna, the Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, is very bewildering. And it's a full manifestation of his, his supremacy. Because he is just in this most loving, intimate space of existence. And it's like he's doing anything. So automatically all these energies manifest and do all these amazing things. Other appearances of the Lord, they have all these features in which he manifests, the Lord manifests all these potencies, but it's always understood as the supreme. So there's this awe and reverence, and there's also it also appears that there's a lila. So there's certain tribulations. Like Lord Ramachandra have to go through all kinds of setbacks and difficulties, and he shows how to deal with these difficulties and how to navigate all the the waves of happiness and distress that the material world brings. But what he shows is that he manifests all these amazing pastimes, and he's always on control. There's no such a thing of him, going to some distress or something like. It's quite something. anyway, some thoughts on that. Yes, bro.
Thank you for the class. I apologize because this isn't a question. It's a small comment. I don't normally like to leave comments, but I found something really beautiful when I was reading this pastime in these particular verses, that we hear that the love of the elder gopis increased because Krishna was now their son. And then when I was reading the purports to these verses, I came across something very interesting, that it increased to the level that they felt affection for Krishna previously, which was astounding. And as you said, Balaram noticed this, and Mother Yashoda noticed this. But you touched on a point that was nice earlier, that Krishna does many things at the same time, when you quoted this Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Shriyate verse. And Sri Vishwanath writes that actually their love for the cowherd boys increased to the way they previously loved Krishna. But it's not that now they loved Krishna and they loved the cowherd boys on an equal level. Their love for Krishna increased to that degree also, because they didn't know it was Krishna. It was just some inexplicable thing that they were now. I don't know why I love my son so much. This is so ecstatic. But Krishna was still also there, and so that process automatically increased their love for Krishna. And so in that way, he in a roundabout way also increased his closeness with the elder gopis.
Yeah, it's quite something.
In his own form. Yeah, it's quite brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not a question, but I found it quite beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very good.
Krishna.
Okay, so we stop here. Ukusharshan, you have something to? Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's still 8:29.
I was just reflecting that, the explanation you were giving of Krishna's energies carrying out his desires, and how perfectly the energies are carrying out the desires. Everything's evolving and continuing. So I was reflecting on the fact that
just turn the last one on the right side, the last fader. Just bring it down a little bit.
That as individuals having desires, those desires can't be fulfilled without that same energy of Krishna's acting to permit them to achieve completion. So I was just reflecting on that. It's so interesting, the interconnection.
Yeah, even our desires, Krishna fulfills them. I mean, it's just inconceivable. It's brilliant. Krishna is most amazing. That's all we can have said. And it completely makes sense how he's the supreme controller, and which in one sense, well, is a little hard pill to swallow from our materialistic point of view. Like, boy, so he does everything, so what do I do? What is my thing? Just like I have nothing to do. That it's hard to sort of accept that from the materialistic view, that everything Krishna controls is fully in control. You have no control. So we have something that Krishna gave us, which is free will or some independence, but it's anu, is very, very atomic, tiny. So there's not much we can feel proud of. And part of self-realization is coming to understand that our capacity of doing is connected to Krishna. Our capacity of being, our capacity, that whole essence is just perfectly connected to Krishna. So that's the wonderful thing, at least that we can embrace that concept and move towards that. All right. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.